edition of 2018 to Ski-U-Mah Weekly, presented by the Minnesota Lottery. I'm Justin Gaard from KFAN Radio and the Gopher Radio Network. And if you can't tell, our location has changed just a little bit today. We are in the brand new lobby of the almost open, almost finished Land O'Lakes Center for Excellence that we've been talking about for, I think, 18 to 20 months now, the centerpiece of the new Athletes Village. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. The students are still on break, most of them, for the holidays. They're going to come back next week, and some of the areas here will be operational starting next week. So to talk a little bit about that and some other things going on with Gopher Sports, we bring in a guy who came to campus in 1995, and but for some professional basketball duties, never really left. Quincy Lewis spent some time in the Golden Gopher Fund, now works in Student-Athlete Development. Quincy, thanks for joining us.
Wait, thank you for having me.
How different is your experience in terms of the facilities you saw back in 1995 to now what we're working with today, the student athletes that are coming in today?
Well, you know, the funny part about it is that all of the older facilities, I was here for the renovation. So when you talk about the existing football locker room, that was just built. So
Sure.
I got an opportunity to see that. A lot of the renovations they did in the locker room at Williams Arena and even downstairs. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's progression. So all the guys that were my age were complaining about what we have. And
Yeah.
It's just that steady progression, you know. And one of the things that I'm more excited about is that all of our student athletes have this. This is not just one particular sport. And, you know, the vision of creating something for all of our student athletes have been great. You know, when you walk into this isn't about one particular sport. This
Right.
is about the University of Minnesota Athletic Department. And that's the exciting part about it. I mean, when you really look at where we are, it really is about the student athlete and the student athlete experience. When you walk through here, you're going to eat, you're going to go upstairs and study, and on the top floor, you can become a great leader, become a great person, and really have that expectation of living the Gopher way and being a great student athlete and having the tools so that when you walk through these doors, regardless of if you're a pro or not,
Right.
you're going to have that support. So that's the exciting part, and that's the part I think is the largest difference, because when it comes to athletic facilities, every generation is going to have it better than before because it's just technology.
How it works.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's that whole law of things that things change on a dime, and we've been fortunate that we've had a lot of great supporters that had this envision. You know, when you talk about Land O'Lakes, to have the vision to want to invest, because when you donate, you're investing, and you have to invest in what this place is and what campus is and what the University of Minnesota has to do, and that's the big part about it. You know, the fun part is coming to the arena and winning, right?
Sure, for sure.
But the thing that we love the most is that we want us, student athletes, everyone that wears the maroon and gold, to go out and make Minnesota better. So that's the exciting part. That's the reason why I'm always here.
The public will have an opportunity to come through this place. They'll have an open house sometime in the spring. We'll give you details on that as we get a little closer. Like I said, student athletes are going to start kind of moving in starting next week with some of the places operational. You're in student-athlete development now. Take us through what that means exactly, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Well, on a day-to-day basis, what we're really focusing on, so number one, leadership. So that's the reason why we're in here. So we really want our student athletes to be able to come out and understand what leadership means, what people want in leaders, and then go out and how to be leaders. And the greatest thing is like how to transform being a leader on the field or in your competition and moving that forward. The next one is legacy, okay? You come here, you're a Gopher, we want to make sure that you understand that you're a Gopher for life, and how do you come back to be impactful in the student athletes that we have now, but also how to build that connection. The next one is development. So we look at professional development, personal development. We want you to be the best person that you can be, but then also too, we want you to be prepared and understand that when you take that next step, that you can have the confidence to know that the skills that you have that we've talked about and you've been able to do it. So on the professional side, we do resume, mock interviews, we do different opportunities, and then the last one is service. We feel like student athletes, we want to give them the opportunity to give back. They have an opportunity to be role models, kids look up to them, you know, they have an opportunity when they speak that people listen, and also too, to show people that these students really appreciate the opportunity that they have. You know, a lot of times we talk about student athletes. The only way that you really know a student athlete is what, watching them play,
Right.
Or their Instagram. So sometimes you don't really get the true aspect of who they are. And when we do our community service and when we do things like this, it's a great way for us to show that our student athletes really enjoy being students, being athletes, but also going back and helping in the community. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Along those lines, people may have seen, if you ever follow any of the Gopher Sports social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all of them, you've probably seen the Magic Bus driving around. You've probably seen pictures of the Magic Bus at different places. Magic stands for Maroon and Gold, impacting the community.
Yes.
Along those lines, what kind of events, what kind of things go on the bus, off the bus, using that bus?
We do everything. We go over to Masonic Hospital a lot, because of that partnership. Our students love going there. We go into classrooms to read. We talk about bullying. We talk about nutrition. We go to Loaves and Fishes to serve just about anything in the community when it comes to service we go out and do. So it's just a matter of, if our student athletes have the time, they're trying to get out, and we try to provide them opportunities to go out and impact the community.
In your position here, how much does it help you, or maybe even help the student athletes, that you've gone through almost the exact same process? Of course, things are going to change in 20 years, and we'll talk about those differences, but the fact that you've been a student athlete here, you've seen what being a student athlete can do for your entire life here in Minnesota, because now that's where you live. So how much does that help you or benefit the student athletes that you've walked where you're talking?
The funny part about it, when I sat down in this chair in Student-Athlete Development, I have done everything that a student athlete wants to do. And then you take it one step further. I came from the South. So culturally, I adapted. Climately, I adapted. Came here, had success on the floor, got drafted, had failure, went over to Europe, had success. But when it was done, come back and say, what's the next part? I tend to bring a whole different perspective about sports, because we say, come here and become a student athlete, get your education. But the thing also too, and I say, if you have a phenomenal, career, professionally is what, 20 years?
Yeah.
So if you leave at 18, 19, or even 20, you're still at 45. And you still got about 55 to 60 years to live. So I tell all my student athletes, if you have the opportunity to be a pro, be a pro. But everything that you do along here is going to help you become a better pro. And then when you get a chance, you can always come back. So I bring that perspective of excellence doesn't just stop on the court.
Sure.
But you can take all the skills that I can do, the interview skills. It's the same thing talking in the media. When it talks about going out and doing community service, helps build your brand, right? Doing that. So, and I tell them the difference between $3 and $5 million is if people like you or not.
It's not bad advice. I wouldn't know that firsthand, but he's made that kind of money.
I haven't, that's the running joke. If I had made that much money, I don't think
wouldn't be working.
You wouldn't be talking to me now.
Well, how about when through the journey of a student athlete? I'm sure as a senior, people have a much better perspective on where they're going to fit in career-wise. But I'm sure you try to get them a lot earlier when they're 18, 19, freshman, sophomore, and saying what you do now can also. Don't just wake up as a senior and say, I'm going to start thinking about the rest of my life. I think that's changed a lot in the last 20 years as well, investing earlier.
I think so too, and I think, as society has gotten more and more involved, they want to have more and more responsibility of when student athletes leave. It's hard. If you have kids, I have a 16-year-old, it's kind of hard to talk about being 30.
Yeah.
It's 20 years from now.
Right.
It's hard to talk about the future when the presence right here is so important. So kind of what I try to tell them is not to be in a rush. And I try to tell them to understand the process. And then I try to do everything that I talk about, I try to meet them where they are, right? And I look at it like this. As a freshman, just come in here and learn where you're supposed to be, right? Be on time, learn to eat. Junior, your sophomore and junior year, this is when I need you to mature. And then when you're in your senior year, this is when you have to write your own legacy. And that's kind of how I look at it, and I try to have that conversation because, you come in and put a lot of pressure on the freshmen, they
go the wrong way.
But as sophomores and juniors, you know what? You should know where to be. You should know where to get your food. When you get those two taken care of, now you can take the next steps. Everyone laughs, but that is the reality of what college athletics is. And then when you look at on the court as well, as freshmen, just come in and play hard. Juniors and seniors, that's when you contribute. And then when you're a senior, this is your legacy. This is your time to write and put your stamp on that record book. And that's kind of when I try to talk to them about both on the court, off the court, maturity-wise, and all that. So it has a lot, but it's enjoyable.
You've been here through all of this, the groundbreaking to now almost doors opening to the student athletes. What's that whole process been like, from talking about it conceptually to now everybody's moving into their office, where I hear Quincy's got like the prime grade A real estate in terms of new offices? We'll maybe get to that, but what's that whole journey been like?
Beautiful. I think absolutely beautiful. I think that, when we talk about investing, and to see the investment and to see the growth and to see where, when I came here in 95 to what it is to now, every great company has to grow. And the things that we're doing and the things that we'll be able to do is going to set us to be able to do more for the state. One of the things that I learned during my time as an athlete, and especially during that magical run that we had in basketball, is that people identify me with good times in their life. Where were you when we won? Or where were you when
grade,
we lost?
Southview Middle School. Indianapolis when they lost. Terrible night. But anyway, go ahead.
But that's what.
But I remember, for sure.
That's what we're about, right? And we're about making those memories that, you probably had something that was wrong. You probably had someone was sick or something bad happened, but every time you go to a Gopher game, you get to escape a little bit of reality. And that's the fun part about playing sports and having sports. And I think it's fabulous that, we're ranked in the top in APR. Our kids graduate. We graduate higher than the athletics. And as much as you think we get in trouble, we don't get in trouble that much. But when we do, we make it. But those are the little things, the greatness of the pride of people wearing the maroon and gold every single day, being proud, kids wanting to be Gophers. And that's the thing. And some kids going to be looking at you saying, hey, how can I be doing this? Sitting with a boom mic, throwing the camera, having fun, talking for a living,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. There's so many parts of athletics, and student development has nothing to do with bouncing a ball or shoot, but it's the important part. So, so many great things, and now we have the opportunity. But the one thing that I love the most about this facility here is that when I played basketball, I was a fall sport. So I hung out with a lot of people that played fall sports. So the winter sports and spring sports. This facility here, everyone's going to eat together.
Right.
So that means that they will have an opportunity to have a true community. Well, before, we all ate in our separate ways. They'll be able to study in the same places. That means that all of the connections, all the friendships gets to deepen because why? We spend more time together. And this is what this place is going to do for us, is that it's going to centralize it. Now, every single person is going to be able to eat the same meal, be able to study in the same location, and that's the great part about it. That's the major difference from when I was here to now.
Enjoy the move to the new office, and enjoy the opening here in the next couple of weeks. Quincy Lewis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
He's Quincy Lewis, StudentAthlete Development. We're going to talk about another area of student-athlete lives that are impacted by this new Athletes Village. We'll do that when we come back on Ski-U-Mah Weekly, brought to you by the Minnesota Lottery.
I just want to see the light.
Minnesota men's basketball hosts the Purdue Boilermakers on Saturday, January 13th at 11 a.m. Tickets and more information are available at gophersports.com.
I just want to see the light.
Out ahead for coffee behind the defense and a dunk.
Welcome back to Ski-U-Mah Weekly, presented by the Minnesota Lottery here on the Gopher Athletics Facebook page. If you've just joined us, you've missed quite a bit. You just missed Quincy Lewis here in the new Athletes Village, more specifically the lobby of the brand new Land O'Lakes Center for Excellence, and to talk to us a little bit more about exactly what that means and all the different things that are now brought together under one roof is Joi Thomas, Associate Athletic Director for Health and Performance. Joi, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you're kind of one of the newbies, so to speak,
Yes.
here in the department. I just
Yes.
talked to Quincy, who got here in 1995. You've been here right around...
I got it here in October.
So like 2 minutes. So
Yep.
you've gotten to see all the new stuff. You never
Yep.
saw kind of the way it
Yep.
went. But what's it been like to be part of this transformation from, as Quincy just told us, everybody kind of being separated to now all under one roof?
Yep. So, I got here in October, and as this building is kind of going up, as things are going around, my second day is when I took my first tour. I think I've taken the tour 6 times now, so I've taken it more than most people who've been here a long time.
Sure.
Under the guise of making sure our unit is coming together, but really just because the building is so phenomenal, and just any opportunity to kind of see what was coming, to see the steps as we were going through it, really was my excuse to take the tour. And so what we're going to really have here is we've piecemealed things for a long time. We've parceled things out. We've put people in different areas. We've kind of made it work. And now what we're able to do, so the health and performance unit is strength and conditioning, athletic medicine, sports psychology, and nutrition.
Right.
And what this is going to do is it's going to let us be a unit that's really housed in one space. And that's really, really important. You should never practice medicine in a vacuum. We need to have these interactions. We need to have people collaborating and working together, and that's really going to let us do that.
You kind of went where I wanted to go in terms of what all falls under the health
Sure.
and performance umbrella, because it's a lot. And I have to imagine you've spent your whole life, at least in this space a little bit as an athletic trainer and those things. How much has that whole thing changed where now it is so holistic, it seems, and everything, including nutrition and how long you're sleeping? It used to be you tape an ankle and you go out and you're ready.
Right.
In your career, how have you seen that change and transform?
Sure. So I think that what's really been transformational for us is just the idea of well-being, right? Like the phrase well-being. So instead of just talking about taping the ankle, put a brace on it, the old school coaches, right? Tape an aspirin to it, those types of things. But really, okay, so how is everything that the student athlete experiences impacting what they're doing every day, as well as how their performance is? And so instead of thinking of these units as ancillary, they're really integral to the performance of the student athlete, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's, they didn't get enough sleep and so they've got a chem exam that they're just so stressed out about, and now all these other things have built up on top and they can't figure out where they're going to get their meal because they're running from place to place. Now we have the nutrition center. Now the academic space is right next to the nutrition center, which really makes things nice.
Sure.
Studying late at night, you can come down, you can grab a snack, you can head back out. And then just seeing how I always make the joke, you can't argue with science, right? And so traditionally, I think sports medicine and sports performance have been very anecdotal. Well, we do this because so-and-so did it, or we always make the joke with strength coaches, we're so science-based. We're not just, we lift heavy things, right? It's biomechanics, it's science, it's exercise physiology, it's all of those things. And so now, with us all working together, we can only continue to increase this evidence-based practice.
Are you seeing, when I kind of asked Quincy the same question in terms of student-athlete development, how you train and teach as they go along, has that all that science stuff, has it trickled down yet to the youth levels, or are people coming in as freshmen? That's a lot to take, I'm sure, where you're saying, here's how you need to sleep, here's how you need to eat, here's how you study, here's how you train. I'm guessing a lot of it is very different from what they've done, or maybe it's trickling down. You can tell me.
Sure. So I think where we're seeing, because we are getting elite level athletes, right?
Sure.
So they've been participating in things where they've been exposed to some of this. Like if you look at some of our soccer players who are on U18 teams and U20 teams before they even come in, they're working with Olympic caliber coaches. So there is some of that. But then on the other end, we have, some of those student athletes. One of the things that I really like about the University of Minnesota and its athletics department is we're really inclusive. And so we're bringing in a lot of student athletes that may not have had that type of exposure yet. So you'll see a really, really diverse base and foundation. And our job is to help educate them and to find a way to connect with them and find a way to make those pieces of information relatable to them and applicable to them.
You spend a lot of time in the mountains, Wyoming and Montana. First of all, do you miss the mountains when you come here?
I have no idea what direction I'm going at any time.
That's fair. But I'm curious, you had kind of built a career and built a life in another part of the country.
Absolutely.
And most people don't choose to come live in Minnesota. I don't know when you visited, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was still nice.
Why was it the right time in your career to come here? What made this such an attractive spot for you?
Sure. So you're right. I did. I had a really great job, and I loved my job. And so that I got to be really choosy, and I got to really select a place that not only did Minnesota select me, but I got to choose them. And so it was really important for me that on top of everything else, that the ideals and the core values that I hold true in terms of student-athlete well-being were met. And so I was able to see that on the interview right away with Mark Coyle and with the direction that he's taking this department. Julie Manning, who is the senior woman administrator, I actually have reported to her previously at the University of Wyoming. So seeing this is absolutely a factor in the services that we're able to provide our student athletes. And in the sense that this health and performance unit, we are making a commitment to being the best. So we just got done meeting actually as a unit. We just had a 2-hour meeting this morning about who we are, what we want to be, what we want to accomplish, and how do we keep the student athlete at the core and the center of every single thing that we do.
Last thing, so what's your typical day like? Because you're going in
Yep.
a lot of directions, it would seem any administrator is, but is there such thing as a typical day for you? Is there such thing as a Monday through Friday for you or even your departments as well?
So not yet. I'm hoping maybe another couple months and maybe we'll meet again in June and I'll be able to tell you what
Sure.
it looks like. But for me, the biggest thing is, having been here just a couple months now, is really it's meeting with every single person in the unit, and now I'm working my way through all of the head coaches in terms of meeting with them and saying, what are your goals? What do you see for this department? And then putting that together in a comprehensive plan. So whatever it takes to meet that, plus any emergencies that may come up, is kind of what the typical day looks like.
So lastly, part two, everybody that I've spoke to, everybody's very vague about where their office is in this new place.
Yep.
Nobody wants anybody
Yep.
else to know where they work. I don't have one. I'd
Yep.
like one.
Yep.
Don't have one. I have to get let into this building most times. Do you know where your office is as it relates to every place that you need to be?
Yes. So I am one of our dominoes, is how we refer to it, right? So right now I'm kind of in a little hidden away space. What's going to happen is, as the units start moving, then I'm going to move up into kind of Bierman, where we have a lot of our other administrators, so just kind of a more central location.
Sure.
Works fantastic for me because it's a quick walk. I can get over to the both indoors. I can get to the nutrition center. Ritter still requires me to put on a coat, and 3M at Mariucci requires earmuffs. But other than that, I can get anywhere that I need to be.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we will catch up here in the next couple of months on Ski-U-Mah Weekly.
That sounds great.
Joi Thomas, Associate Athletic Director for Health and Performance. Didn't even have to look at the notes this time. I consider that a win. Thanks for joining us today on Ski-U-Mah Weekly here on the Gopher Sports Facebook page. A reminder, now we're in 2018. Basically through April and May, we're going to be here. April, right? April, we're going to be here basically through the academic calendar every Monday at noon. We may even talk to an Olympian next week on this show. More on that later. Thanks again to the Minnesota Lottery. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you next Monday at noon.